Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to John and Dylan Online, a show where two comedians talk about internet history, or in this case, kind of just another. This is usually something we do for Patreon, but we're going to talk about a band this week. A band that's old, a band that's bold, a band that has a drummer who got sucked off and a lead singer who had sex with the same person. So they released a competing sex tape, Motley Crue.
woo, ladies and gentlemen, their old guitar player Mick Mars is currently suing them, and
I thought you were
their
going to say
point.
currently dead because he looked dead when I saw
Oh,
them in
Mick Mars.
concert 20 years ago.
Well, Mick Mars has a degenerative disease that's one of the most nightmarish things I've ever heard in my entire life, which was his bone marrow grows plaque, so he's slowly being frozen by his bones.
Can I
So,
ask
like,
you a question?
yo,
Why doesn't he just brush his bone marrow twice a day if it's got plaque, John?
yeah, well, Dylan,
Show's done.
from your yeah, thank you very much. All right, everyone, join our Patreon. Our Patreon episodes, by the way, are this long and they are this much of a ripoff. Guess what? What do we fuck you?
Yeah. I want to tell you a story though. Here's it is. So me and John were talking about. So I like telling stories on my Instagrams and my TikToks.
That's right.
But like the problem with the stories is we're talking about. Thank you for everyone that does just watch their phone for 2 minutes.
Oh, really appreciate it.
But here's all right. So I took an EasyJet flight one time. I arrived on the flight, that sweet spot between hungover and drunk.
Oh, that's a real I'm returning to England. The year
Yeah.
is 2016, and I was just in a former Soviet republic where the tequila shots were somehow part of the payment. Oh, you better.
Oh yeah, baby. That is fucking what was it? I remember making some like throwaway
Oh,
joke when I did gigs in I want to say Estonia, where I was making some Estonia where I'm like, hey buddy, where do we do the stuff from Taken, but where Liam Neeson doesn't show up? You know what I mean? Like trying to make a joke, and the guy was like, if you go to the border, we can get you whatever you want. And I was like, you saw a joke as a serious comment. I'm
oh
gonna
yeah.
stop making jokes now.
I remember I was in Latvia or Lithuania. I cannot remember. And the bartender got angry at me for going outside to smoke and not standing behind the bar with him and smoking cigarettes. I just remember. And like, by the way, like in front of a no smoking sign that seemed very purposely placed. And he's just like, no, no, here, here. And you're just like, man, you get other side of like, I don't even fucking know.
Fuck man, smoking.
Other other side of fucking the Netherlands and fucking light them up. Get ready. Germany is wild. They're the best. Like Europe, here's the thing where people are like, oh, everywhere has a Florida. It's that only America builds a billboard and is like, what's the fuck up? And here's the thing with Europe, Europe's Florida starts basically at the Netherlands and goes east until Asia. And then it's just literally like, what happens here? Whatever the fuck you want, man. Whatever the fuck you want. Like, let's get fucking crazy. The amount of nut shit in Sweden, the amount of people pissing in the road, so crazy. Almost had the only time I almost had a threesome with two people, but I couldn't do it because one of the ladies' boyfriends was fighting in Afghanistan. And I was like, listen, I don't support the war, but like I'm not poning a soldier while he is at war's insane lady. Get out of here. Let's go.
That's exactly what you do, though. That helps the
No,
war effort.
does not. I had a vibe. I had a vibe where I was like, this ends with me getting hit in the face with a baseball bat.
Well, that's hot stuff.
Certainly. Oh my God. Yeah. So you're on an EasyJet flight. And here's what would happen is you would go for a weird time of portion of days at a weird portion of the week for comedy. So it's literally like you are Sunday in Las Vegas hungover and it's Thursday morning and you're at Schiphol Airport. Like it's like no one can understand why you're this hungover is the other thing that you should understand about these flights. Like no one's like, okay, well, it's Amsterdam and it was Easter weekend. You're like, well, it's Brussels and this man is wearing a Shaquille O'Neal t-shirt. Why does he smell like a penis?
Oh, buddy, they woke me up, gave me a sandwich. I ate it, fell back asleep. The crew woke me up again and said, "Did you eat that sandwich?" I said, "Yeah." And then the guy was like, "That was for the guy behind you." And I said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I thought maybe it was free." He's like, "A complimentary sandwich on an EasyJet flight? You paid £8 for this flight." And I was like, "Yeah." And then he was like mad, but that was the thing was the best part was they had only brought that sandwich. So we had to explain to the guy, you got pretzels or something. And the guy was still pissed at me as if he
Of
didn't fuck
course.
up.
Of course. Of course.
You fucked
welcome.
up.
Yeah, welcome to England. Welcome to a British person. Do I blame the institution that created this? No, I blame the rotund gentleman who smells like a fart.
And just and just hungover. So like the other thing about me is I get really horny when I'm so it's just like a sleeping guy with a fucking boner. I just ate a sandwich and I got a big stiff boner and I'm asleep. Like I just like snoring with hard as shit. Just ate your sandwich. Ugh, can't wait to get home and fucking jack off.
I got some ham in my belly.
I got some sausage in I got ham in my belly and sausage in my pants. Can't wait to go watch.
No, I actually
gotta go watch Eva Angelina piss.
Yeah. Oh, it's 2016. Let's see what Bonnie Rotten has been up to.
Bonnie Rotten never could get into it. John, what better way to talk about Motley Crue than starting the story with falling asleep on a plane? Actually, that's more shitty. Motley Crue is more aggressive as far as John, you've read The Dirt 600 years ago. Walk us through what happens in The Dirt.
Well, I'm going to move my fucking camera back. Jesus fucking Christ. Piss. Asshole. The Dirt is the story of one highly motivated, traumatized man, a disabled guitar player, a sex addict, and an idiot hitting it big using rock and roll. The off again, on again. We did it again. I feel like they do that on purpose to give people like us superiority in situations. Well, did you reset it? Yeah, I reset the nuclear warhead, you fucking piece of shit.
No, man, my friend Mike was on a 15-hour flight and they were having problems with and he was listening to the flight crew and they literally turned the plane off, turned it back on again, and then flew. And he was like, I've never been more scared in my life. They flew for 15 hours and the problem was, you try to turn it back on, turn it on again? Yeah, we did that. Anyway, let's go fucking be 30,000 feet in the air.
Oh my God. The thing I think about all the time when you fly to Australia is, you know, that in-flight map where like, it's like you can see where you fly over. When you fly to Australia, it's literally like the minute you leave Los Angeles to the moment you land in Melbourne are the only times you're over land. And I just think about like, what if something happens? And it's like, well, what do you think happens, John? You fucking die.
No,
like,
you fucking swim, dude. I always have a path to victory. I remember when I was like playing football in high school, I was 17. Ooh. I moved as fast as the slowest punter in the NFL, and I was the size of the smallest coach in the NFL. And I honestly had the thought while watching a Muhammad Ali documentary, but he never faced me. I would have fucking 3-0'd that pussy. I would have knocked that bitch out, convinced him the Nation of Islam was wrong, corrected him.
I'm going to say this right now. I would pay a lot of money to find out what age you start being superior over Muhammad Ali. I don't know what AI tech.
I think what's death.
Death. Let me say this. I'm going to give you, because I love you, and I agree with this. 1996 Olympics forward, Muhammad Ali is yours for sure. For sure.
I still think he would beat me up because I was in grade 6.
No. I'm comparing you today versus various eras of Muhammad Ali. I say you today could take him down 96 forward. Not easily. Like you're getting fucked up too.
Oh yeah.
But like on the cards, they're going to be like, God's got it. You know what I mean?
How terribly I move. Yes.
Exactly. Like it's almost, and it like distracts him. Like he's like, what the fuck is he doing? Why would he get in the ring if that's how he maneuvers?
But that's the one thing about athletes that we don't like. The way that fucking just a basketball player from the 90s moves now is like how our grandmothers move, just because like the impact on your hips. I know that's a boring thing. Let's talk about man hips on a Motley Crue podcast.
That's all I want to talk about. Always. Listen, I now listen to the Pat McAfee show because just listening to an athlete apply how he feels about football to everything in life and business makes for the most riveting radio I've ever heard in my life. Just a man grunting and attacking executives. It's the greatest week I've ever had in news.
Yeah, it's always good to get all your news from a guy standing up in a sleeveless shirt.
Yeah, I always want to make sure that all of my information is coming from a guy who definitely makes sure to go like this to expose his chain, no matter the shirt he's wearing.
So, John,
So,
fucking
Dylan,
talk about Motley Crue. How did they form into a band?
so the year is 1970 and 80. Basically, LA is going through this weird flux where there's all these people that like glam metal, and there are all these sort of bands competing to kind of be the first American glam band that eventually becomes Quiet Riot because this is the height of recording company supremacy, and they're literally like, "What's a successful song in England?" Come on, feel the noise. Yeah, get this band that we're using to pretend to be that band to play their song. There we go. That worked. Which creates a marketplace for basically hard rock played by people with ludicrous fashion sense. And enter a traumatized man from the Midwest, a guy named Frank Fournier. And he is obsessed with becoming famous so that he can use that fame to kill his mom and find his dad and then kill his dad, which is basically the story of the Dirt. His mom dated Richard Pryor and seemed like a real piece of shit. And his dad just abandoned him a bunch. He gets real emo in the 90s sidebar. Anywho, this guy becomes Nikki Sixx. Nikki Sixx joins a bunch of different bands, one called London that almost makes it and then doesn't. He leaves that band, hooks up with like the young hotshot drummer, a guy named Tommy Lee, who's from Covina, the most suburban place I've ever been to in my life. They put in an ad. That ad attracts a guitar player who's already got 3 kids and is 30 and considered ancient.
Oh yeah, because what is it? He's the only guy who can play music. Nikki Sixx is actively bad.
Oh yes, so we're gonna
Nikki
get to
Sixx is
that.
actively bad.
No.
Vince Neil's fine. Tommy Lee's good. Mick Mars is great. But like Nikki Sixx, it's like Mick Mars was like, "Why don't we do this?" And Nikki Sixx is like, "That's interesting thought. I don't know what that thing you're holding does."
Yeah, so this is a great point. To make this point, Tommy Lee is kind of like the Dennis Rodman of drumming in that Tommy Lee, for what he does, is like superb and is amazing, and Mick Mars is superb and amazing as a musician and a riff writer. And then they meet like just a singer that just sounds exactly like pop's music should in the moment they're making rock and roll, and they meet a superb businessman. Nikki Sixx is a terrible lyricist and a terrible musician, really smart at business.
Wants
Yes, he's going
and he's
to
also
win.
very like Nikki Sixx is like also he's very good at being exactly
Evil.
what we said. And also like everyone in the band except for Mick Mars is charismatic.
That's correct. And also the thing that Motley Crue is very good at is they look like they're cutting edge, but what they really do is look at what's happening in the underground and then they replicate that. But because they have Mick Mars, who's like gone through being in a bunch of different bar bands in the 70s, they have a guy that's like, I can write fucking hooks for fucking days. Let's fucking do this. They put out fucking their first fucking album, Too Fast for Love. They got a fucking belt buckle on it. All of the photos were done by a wedding photographer. Their manager's a guy named Alan Kovac, who ripped off a kid in Canada for his life savings. So they have to do a weird tour of like Windsor and London, Ontario when this album's supposed to come out. It gets big industry heat, mostly because David Lee Roth wants to fuck the ladies that go to their shows, which is the best and weird and so crazy. And they get signed to Elektra. Elektra decides to hide their label. So with no marketing effort, their second release, Shout at the Devil, originally Shout with the Devil, and then Nikki Sixx claims a bunch of forks started levitating around his apartment. What he doesn't mention was he was on cocaine for 7 days. So it's like, no, that they didn't move there. We're on coke, you psychopath. Releases that
also,
with no.
it's like you just mentioned the devil. The Tipper Gore thing is happening. If it was Shout with the Devil, then they would have
Right
actively...
after that. No, Tipper Gore doesn't happen yet. Tipper Gore's happening in a second. This is
no, but I mean, like it's gathering because
yes.
people. This is like you're getting like heavy metal and like also Richard Ramirez is killing people. Like there's a lot of
Or was he
talking about Satanism as a real problem? Which, man,
Dylan, are you
the fact
cool
that you just like AI is a problem now, where you're like, oh wow, that actually could really affect society. And then back in the 80s, they had to just actively invent problems.
Yeah, we're still doing that. You listen, it's been covered many multitudes of times on this very program, but let me say this, God damn it. I don't think AI is the problem that we all think it is. I'll tell you what the problem we all think it is. This dick. That's the problem you all should be fucking worried about.
I wish I had your optimism, John. All right, continue.
Of course. By the way, it's not optimistic. I think it's going to be much stupider. I think we are way closer to some nuclear bombs going off than anyone really recognizes. You know what I'm saying? Also, like, what's going to fucking happen in stupid America? What's going to happen in stupid Canada? Like, nothing really works. Everyone's annoyed. They won't bring back the McRib, Dylan.
Suck my Rick. This guy had a couple McRibs taken out so he could suck his own dick. Tommy Lee, we're back on.
Okay, so basically, the other thing is Motley Crue basically just are partying psychopath assholes. They hang out with Ozzy Osbourne at the height of Ozzy Osbourne wearing blouses and doing cocaine. Also, sidebar, Dylan, have you been listening to the nightmare that is the Osbournes podcast?
No.
Oh, well, for this program and my own delectation, I have been, and it is literally just, oh, this is what happens to a family when there was an addict there for 40 years. Because Ozzy's literally like, hey, yeah, that was John. That's fine. And Jack is just, I got to control the conversation. Sharon Osbourne has had so much plastic surgery. She looks like fucking Beaker. And Kelly Osbourne just mentions her children and I assume is on pills.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you have that sweet spot of your parents are present but not really there, and then you're rich, so no one feels bad for you. So it's like you have like a weird emotional detachment, but also you're basically your currency is your last name, so you kind of have to like, hey, we're dad's naturally going through end of life stuff, which is accentuated by his previous drug use, and now we got to make a radio show, which is the one thing dad can't do anymore.
That's right. What I like though is when podcast came out, we were all like, "Hey, know what we need to do? We need to make sure that everyone just makes the fucking Oprah/Drew Barrymore show." That's every show. Every podcast is literally just they're trying to work through an emotional moment at this point. That's why I like this show. No pathos, no crying.
Well, this show really finds the sweet spot between information and just talking, which we do neither of them. John, explain
That's
more
right.
about Motley Crue.
The thing that you remember about Motley Crue is basically the Backstreet Boys of the 80s, in that they just got juicy hooks. And if you look into their backstory, it's nothing but blood. Fun things. Vince Neil murders a man with a car. The drummer for Hanoi Rocks, a band that, let me tell you this, rocks. They were going to the liquor store. They put a bunch of 2-4s of beer in the lap of Razzle, got into a car accident because Vince Neil was drunk, of course, and it killed Razzle. Vince Neil should have done 5 years in jail for murdering a man with his car, and instead he did 30 days where, if you read the dirt, he just talks about all the sex he had in jail with ladies who came to visit him because
Cool.
Vince Neil is exactly who you want to be. Hey, isn't it bad you killed that guy? I mean... No, you know what I'm saying? It's fucking
no,
nuts.
it's really sick because I'm a metal guy and I love
Yeah.
that.
That's pretty sick though. You're like, is it? It is.
Yeah, it's just cheesy cock rock, but they put a bunch of fucking satanic symbols behind it, which I'm glad that doesn't really work anymore. But it also is funny that you no longer need a satanic symbol.
Oh, it depends on where you are. Like, have you been reading? Like, they keep putting all these satanic things in various courthouses and places because they're putting up the 10 Commandments. So they're putting up like a Methuselah statue and stuff like that. So no, it's getting going again.
So, well, here's the fun thing: was I was watching a video where it was a really cute little girl, and it was the headline was how Swifties watch football, and it was this really cute. She's like 2.5. She's like, I'm ready for football. And then the mom goes, who's playing today? And she goes, I don't know. And then she goes, who's your favorite football player? And the little girl goes, Taylor Swift. And then that's a cute video.
Yeah.
Because it's lightly making fun of Swifties who now watch football because she's dating Travis Kelce. Top comment was, how dare you let your daughter be a fan of Satanist Taylor Swift? 40 likes.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
And then the parent commenting, cool the fuck down. Exactly. Also 40 likes. So if you're just like a machine reading that, each of those comments are exactly weighted the same.
I want to say this right now, and I love that. that I love for us. I
If
love that
anything,
for
if you're wearing a
everybody.
satanic
I'm
symbol,
gonna
people
say
are like,
this right now.
bullshit. You're just fucking trying to distract from T Swift being a Satanist. Which is the
Depends
best
on
thing
where you
about.
are. You will get some of those people. But here's what I want to say: is
Okay.
hats off to that fucking parent that was literally that reads like how dare and just literally just like I'll tell you what this guy needs to fucking do: settle down. Doesn't correct the Satanism. Just hey, how about you just be, choose a better tone when you're criticizing if I'm a Malthusian.
Well, that's the thing. That's the whole reason I'll never ever. And then a couple of our friends who are very successful.
Get back together.
Ooh, I'll never ever put my kid on social media.
Oh my god, I completely
A
love
lot
it.
of our friends who are famous are
I
like, "Man, your
know.
kid's cute. Maybe you should put him on social media." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'd rather literally just get a job." Like,
Yeah, I
mean,
would
that's
rather.
not.
I want you to name the names of these fucking assholes that say that because, like,
Oh, our friends that are. Oh, I'm glad Dan Bilzerian, our good friend,
of
our
course,
good
Dan
friend.
Bilzerian,
Yeah, our good
our good
friend.
friend, noted Canadian Stock Exchange massive owner. All of his stocks are on the Canadian Stock Exchange.
Mhm.
That's because his dad is a massive embezzler.
That's sick, though. I love that.
I gotta tell you, Dan, have you checked in on Dan Bilzerian recently? Because I certainly have, and it is mostly just documentaries about how his follower counts are going down. Because let me say this right now about the creation of
Don't
trolls
bring the
making
actual
documentaries.
internet and
I
social
love
media
it.
into this episode. This is about the 80s and Coke and when people could pretend to be rich and
Dan
then they would work.
Dan Bilzerian is the Motley Crue of 2020s. That's what Motley Crue and Dan Bilzerian occupy the same space in culture and media, which is the like, oh, we fuck these broads, broads.
Yeah, but there's no party where you could make it fun by putting on what Dan Bilzerian does. Like, yo, put on Kickstart My Heart. Let's get some beers. Let's fucking commit some vehicular manslaughter, dude. That's
Oh,
fun.
that's very true.
Here's the
That's very
second one.
true.
Here, check it out. Hey, let's look at pictures of Dan Bilzerian. Let's look at a
Sound pretty
picture of a
fucking
boat.
cool. Wait a minute. What do we
Hey,
put up? What?
John, we're about to go out tonight. Let's fucking look at these pictures on
Dylan,
our phone.
Dylan, fucking put your hands together. Put on Kickstart My Heart. Put on the projector Dan Bilzerian's
Oh,
legs.
that's fucking actually that works
yeah,
good.
bro. Let's start vaping.
I think yeah, that's the clip for the show, dude. That's fucking. We got to put on Kickstart My Heart. Just Dylan Bilzerian with
Yeah,
prostitutes
look
on
at
a boat.
those. Oh my god! I guarantee she doesn't even know her name.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bought sex slaves, and here they are. Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah. My
Every
dad's
one of these
comedian.
women was molested by their dad. Ooh,
Ah,
yeah.
damn. Committed financial crimes using my dad as a cutout. Other way, actually. Dan. Ugh.
Daddy
But I
does
like,
finance crimes. I do sex crimes. Bill Zarians.
yeah, Bill Zarians. We rent mansions. We will not pay beards.
And then my favorite, which is just any podcast, which is so funny because I watched that podcast with fucking Shane Gillis and Martin Shkreli, where Martin Shkreli talks about how what if someone tried to pay you 33 cents for a comedy show? The tickets were 33 cents. He's like, oh yeah, that'd be bad. But if going to the comedy show saved people's lives, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
What are you fucking talking about? Anyway, Motley Crue. Talk us through Motley Crue getting big, hair metal going down. They also go through a grunge thing, do they not?
Oh boy, do they. Okay, so what happens is Motley Crue is like the tip of the spear. Dr. Feelgood comes out in 91. Like it's
89.
no, Dr. Feelgood's later than that. Dr. Feel you're shocked. It's shocking how late Dr. Feelgood is.
Which just shows if it's in the 90s, it just does go to show you that like if something fucking rules, then it doesn't matter.
Oh my god, you were totally right. It was 1989. I'm sorry, Dylan. I always do
Because Dr. Feelgood was like Motley Crue's done. They come back, they have Dr. Feelgood. Because the other thing is like another paradigm shift what it is, which doesn't really get mentioned, is that you have Motley Crue, which is like basically, hey, what if Slayer but Poison sounds like Poison, and then you have Appetite for Destruction, which is like a lot harder than what
Correct.
Motley Crue is, and that's a paradigm shift. Motley Crue comes back with Dr. Feelgood and then gets exploded by Nirvana, and then they try and wear plaid. But like my favorite thing is they wear the plaid, but they're not like a grunge attitude. It's Tommy Lee still smiling and being like, you know what grunge is about? Titty fucking people. Heroin is for emo bitches. I titty fucked your dad. I made your dad grow tits and then I fucked his tits. Ooh, yeah, your dad has tits and I'll fuck those tits. That's good.
I mean, that's the best
I had a three-way with your mom and your dad, but I'm so much of a fucking man, your dad counts as a chick. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a shotgun and shot your cat. Ooh, yeah, your cat is dead and I fuck that too.
All right. Here's what happens. So Dr. Feelgood's so big, they go on a stadium tour for years. In 91, this is how big they are. They release The Decade of Decadence, which is just their singles from their other albums. But bear this in mind. All but I think 2 tracks from Dr. Feelgood become singles. They release a greatest hits album, like that's just songs that are still on the radio. That goes fucking crazy. They are unfucking touchable. And then what happens is it all falls apart. Vince Neil leaves the band because they're just so they can't go wrong at all. Nikki Sixx gets sober, demands everyone else be sober. Vince Neil's like, I'm gonna drink and do motocross and F1 racing, which is the most rich guy move ever. In that time, Nirvana happens. Now, what's also very important to remember is Motley Crue is basically just replicating the underground, and Nikki Sixx is a faceless businessman with weird spiky hair. So exactly to Dylan's point, they go grunge and like I'm sad, and get a new singer named John Coriabi and make their self-titled album Motley Crue, which basically feels like they met with Pantera, and then it was like a race between them and Pantera to see who was going to do groove metal, and Pantera did it right and Motley Crue did it exactly wrong. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you also need a fresh face on it. It's kind of hard to accept a complete musical style change when it's like you've been so fucking successful. You kind of have to do the thing where it's like, okay, we plateaued. You have to wait like 10 years till
Correct.
the people that liked your music when they were 16 or 26 and they're like, whoa, this is fucking, I'm an adult, but I want to go back to a time when I had no responsibilities. Let's crew it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what they should have done, and basically what they do inadvertently with that book and everything else. But basically, they go into a dormant period. Vince Neil comes back to the band because they just need to be able to go on tour. And
They also, I don't know if this was a fucking, sorry to cut you off, but I don't know if this was like a thing that did just happen back then because CDs were like a real stream of income, but they released like 9 fucking greatest hits albums.
That's right.
And you said Vince Neil comes back to the band.
Basically, what happens is anytime a member leaves or comes back, they try and relaunch the band. So they, in the 90s, Tommy leaves, Vince returns. They do the another greatest hits album with that song that was played a lot, New Pill, and they appear on Monday Night Raw for the debut of Test, the bodyguard.
Oh yeah, because Test was
a bodyguard for Motley Crue,
which is, yeah, that's good.
And then they get a female drummer from Hole for a while who has an affair with Nikki Sixx. In that period of time, they write a group biography with the guy who wrote The Game, Neil Strauss, called The Dirt, which is the smartest thing that they've ever done and basically relaunches their career as sort of this legitimate band, but also they're really embraced by urban living millennial fucks, basically, as kind of a, like, I remember like I would hang out like with a bunch of musicians at this weird fucking hipster bar, and they all read that book and they were all into like fucking like, you know, like bands that like have sold 4 albums. They all were really into Black Flag and Fugazi and Motley Crue. Like Motley Crue became like a fun, exactly to your point of like, we're doing shots of Jameson, put on Kickstart My Heart. And I think that the fucking Dirt did a lot to help that because it was a book. You could really ignore the fact that they were fucking druggy sex pest fuckwads. Like, yeah, I'm a feminist And let me tell you who else is a feminist. Vince Neil, because he didn't kill them, is how it was presented.
Well, it's how our generation does irony, where it's you remove yourself from those like we didn't grow up with people who were into Motley Crue and fucking called us fags and kicked us. But
Yeah, no, weirdly
like
they were
guys,
what,
Gen X people were that's Motley Crue, a
yes.
guy 10 years older than me is like, oh, this guy's a fucking homophobic piece of shit. He's like fucking homophobic, but he dresses like super effeminately. But if you say that, then like 9 of them beat the shit out of you.
Mhm.
But
What's
to us, it's
funny,
just like an ironic thing.
yeah, and what's funny to us is that like the bands that were that like the jock rock for me is Nirvana and Soundgarden, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers is my favorite, which is like, let me tell you this, no homo. You're wearing a t-shirt of 2 male band members kissing. They're thinking that. You know what I'm saying? Like that was for me, that was that to your point. That's also why Motley Crue was such a breath of fresh air, because we were like fed so many fucking bands that the singer sound, I saw her like that. You know what I'm saying?
That was the real shit. Like watching the younger generation like Creed to me is like, the fuck
what
are you
the
gues doing?
fuck you. Like, yeah, that's why I'm like, I'll fucking,
Another one of my shitty videos, but legit, like Limp Bizkit is right there.
and they
They're
rule.
right there.
They fucking rule. What do you want?
Yeah,
They're doing
man.
a country western tour now. Limp Bizkit goes Hawaiian. Here's what I will say for Limp Bizkit that Motley Crue lacks completely. Limp Bizkit knows who they are. They know who they are in culture. They are fine with it. Like Fred Durst,
Well,
like,
they're just more fun.
that's correct.
Motley Crue's like,
Crue
no,
is
this'll
so
optimize
serious.
our merch. And then like Fred Durst is like, I've grown my hair long. It's all gray. I grew a big mustache. I'm still doing rap metal. And also like still dresses exactly like he did. But I think one of my favorite things was this is the album New Tattoo in 2000. It was
Woo.
a pretty much greatest hits album by Motley Crue, yet another one. But my favorite thing about it was that all of the songs written on it were written by Simple Plan.
What do you
So
mean?
they just took a bunch of fucking Simple Plan songs.
Is that true?
Yes.
How do you, where did you get this theory?
Theory, this is fuck. All right. No, don't quote me on the fact that it was
Yeah, I knew it.
No. It
Dylan
was
Jones.
one of their greatest hits albums. They had because I remember because this came out in high school when I was in high school, so it was like 2000, maybe 2002. It came out. There was a greatest hits album by Motley Crue because they had the fucking what I was talking about the 10 years later, like the nostalgic kick.
Yep.
And then they had they had like a single on it, so it was like their greatest hits plus 2 songs, and both
This
of those
is
songs were Simple Plan. Like they were rejected off of Simple Plan albums, and then they fucking were like sweet, down tuned them, and now they're on a Motley Crue album.
I could completely believe that. I would say that that's earlier because New Tattoo, I think, is the song they're playing on Monday Night Raw.
New Tattoo is year 2000.
Then what song are they playing on Monday Night Raw? Who the fuck knows? Either
No,
way,
it is New Tattoo because that's when Test debuts. Remember?
he debuts in 2000. I thought it was earlier than that. You know,
No, because
don't you
Test
know?
came in at that magical time. Now we're talking about wrestling, but Test came at that magical time just before WCW was collapsing, where they could get all the mid card wrestlers. Where it was like, who the fuck do we have in the main event? This guy's tall, and I think he's fucked somebody. Get him.
First of all, that's how I demand to be described from now on. He's tall and he
fucker.
I want you to say this right now.
It wasn't when
Dylan.
I was in high school. It was the year 2005. If I Die Tomorrow. It was a 2005 compilation called Red, White, and Crew, that's pretty good actually.
I'm also going to say this. You
They
son of a
knocked the
bitch.
fucking album out
Test
the top.
Test debuted October 25th, 1998. You were wrong on both accounts, but you know what I like? We've both been wrong this episode, but you were much more wrong. That's what's important to me.
Songwriter Simple Plan and Nikki Sixx wrote.
Oh my God, that's embarrassing. What a weird day.
Oh, yeah. Simple Plan wrote the
Man.
song Let's Suck Their Dicks. Oh, yeah.
What's going on with you? You're really bringing it today. I think you had a head cold the last time.
I really had a lot of colds. There's a lot of in the previous episodes of you making jokes and me not laughing because I'm on mute sneezing.
Yeah, there's a lot of yeah. That's better than when you go on mute and boo me though. So that's we're subtle
Yeah, you're
improvement.
right. You
I like that. I like that. Guys, still got your email with the audio.
Ooh, yeah. So we should also talk about, is this an internet moment? The Tommy and Pam sex tape, which
Let me say
was,
this was
ooh,
out. It was out, and let me tell you,
I
you really knew.
shoplifted it. Ooh,
You did you really? I just
yeah.
knew there was one kid who, looking back, his parents just, where the fuck were they? They did not like him. He just
Mm-hmm.
had it on his computer, and I remember we gathered around,
Mm.
and we for some reason did not fast forward, and so much of that tape is just people on vacation.
It is a lot of vacation. There's a couple BJs, and then there's some sun tanning. It's really, if
It's
you've watched actual pornography, then it's real
yeah,
bad. Like I remember giving, like, because this is how fun. This is something that is not spoken, is that boys would just give each other pornography tapes and then
certainly.
masturbate to them, and
Of
then
course.
every like that. Popular kids would get it from nerds. No one cared. And then here's the other part I remember is everyone would ask me how the tape was, which was code for, which I always thought was where I would always be like, yeah, it was good. But then I'm like, we both know I just said you asked me how jacking off to it was, and I said good, and you were like, I liked jacking off to it too,
Of course.
but you
Yeah, you're
still call
talking.
people gay as an insult. It's very funny.
I mean, I also
That's
this is
fucking gay. How was masturbating?
yeah.
Oh, it was very good. I made my big cummies. I made big cummies to it too. Do you want to see how much cummies I made? I have a Polaroid of it. Yes.
Were you doing fat cummies? I am covering this. I have a bit about this. In fact, this ordeal right now, very exciting. It's on the zeitgeist. I gonna also say this that I always found very fascinating. Oh, it's gone. It slipped from my brain. Fuck. It'll come back.
I watch chicks piss and I watch dude shit. That's the liner for this show.
Um
This is truly a Patreon episode because it's just two people with attention disorders swearing as their North
sir,
Star.
I've said this to you before, and I have the therapist's documentation
And
to
I
back
have
it up.
I would like the name of that therapist because if I talk to them, they'd probably be like, Dylan is a proud black man because I believe they should be disbarred.
No, this is just anxiety, baby. I can't pay attention. I'm just trying to be aware of my surroundings.
So, do you think that Motley Crue, if I gave Vince Neil $50 now and told him what I told him he could be big and TikTok was signing him, that he'd put a carrot in his butt? Because I do.
No, I don't think so. They are shockingly doing so well. So what had happened is they do a bunch of tours after the Dirt and basically they become Foghat. They become the Beach Boys. They're a like nostalgia act for exactly that. People every 10 years. Oh, I finger fucked a babe when I was 16 at a Motley Crue show. Now let's go with my wife I don't like, and maybe
You think
that
he's
babe
doing
will be
good
there.
now? Look at that picture.
Yeah, but
Do
look,
you think that's
they're on a
good?
fucking state. I don't think he's physically doing
Oh,
well.
yeah. I ate a hot
He,
dog and it's in my ass. Anyway, the
I
well,
am mostly a Reuben sandwich. Let's go to the toilet.
yeah, I'm calling a guy fat. Well, fuck off. Anyway,
Good giving yourself shit there, buddy. Really showing the Presbyterian Canadian there. He's fat.
fuck yeah,
And you know
buddy.
what's worse than that?
Presbyterian.
Me.
That's what we talk about, all right? Let's shut your mic off. I got something to say.
All right.
There's nothing like a fucking Catholic, okay? They're bringing back Sunday school because they're paying off so many kids that got molested. That's what it's all about. Anyway, if you guys want something, would be really good for our Patreon is if you called the Catholic Church, said you were molested, because they don't even check, dude. You're gonna get 6 figures.
Maybe 7.
They're just like, yeah. No,
Yeah.
they give you 6, and they're like, okay. Especially if it's got a bunch of fucking things against it. I'm not doing this. I'm just saying if you did. What was I gonna say? John, did you know this? Did you know that I lost my train of thought. But
Yeah, I could tell. I'm going to resolve this. So Motley Crue goes on a bunch of tours. It culminates in them doing a farewell tour where they sign a contract that says we will never ever tour again. Then the Dirt gets optioned for a movie, is directed by the guy from Jackass, Jeff Tremaine. Whoa. The movie is fine. They dramatize things they don't need to dramatize. It's very focused on Nikki Sixx, of course, because Nikki Sixx is going to win. I'm the winner. I'm going to win. No one can kiss me.
But that's every long-term band, is just a bunch of people who are along for the ride, and one guy where if he had more know-how, technically, he would run a giant social media conglomerate.
Yeah, correct. It's one of those things where if AI goes your way, the Nikki Six types are going to really just be that, and then AI musicians, and then they don't have to deal with anyone, and we're going to see megalomania on a scale that you can't even fucking fathom.
Oh yeah, like they'll just scrape TikTok for whatever kid came up with a new sound, and then just AI the shit out of it, and they're
Correct.
like, it's done now.
Yeah, I made that as an advertisement. Then what the fuck happens next? I'll tell you. They then come back because they were like, we're coming back because that movie made us popular again with the youths and we can sell at a stadium. Mick Mars, who is basically just a statue now, is like, can we not tour? Oh, and when we tour, can we maybe like not be so pre-recorded? And they were like, first of all, no. Second of all, shut up. And they have a giant lawsuit. Mick Mars also can't really perform anymore and sort of leaves the band / gets kicked out. They're in a variety of lawsuits to figure it out. John Five joins the band, and now there's touring stadiums. Tommy Lee has some accusations, of course he does, and mostly just makes Instagrams about how expensive cigarettes are. Vince Neil lives in Nashville, has a bunch of horses. Mick Mars is, of
Tommy
course,
Lee
suing the
also
band.
is
Nikki
dating that.
Nick
Well,
sucks.
sorry.
Oh yes. She's
He's
dating
dating
Brittany
that
Furlong.
girl who just did or married to that woman who was one of the first big social media stars who most of her sketches were like, here's how an Asian guy orders stuff at the bank or whatever.
Yeah, looking back, Vine was
Jenna
a nightmare.
Marbles that stood by her guns. Like they
Yeah.
found a bunch of fucking shit of her doing weird racial stuff, and whereas Jenna Marbles was like, I was wrong. I'm tired of this anyway. I'm retiring. Brittany Furlong was like, oh yeah, I'm getting tape. Double down, baby.
Yeah. Glad to see that you enjoy my comedy. I feast on your tears. I, by the way,
Try and cancel me. No one really cares about what you're doing. Cancel, please cancel.
I've missed 3 times meeting Tommy Lee because she does stand up and we've been on the same show, and I've missed because she'll come early. I always go late.
Another, he had a kid drown in his pool. He, of course.
Oh, do you know why? He believes that the kid drowned in his pool.
No.
And because the sex tape happened. Do you want to know why? I want you to guess why he believes it. I want you to guess. I want you to guess.
I don't know, man. The cabal.
It's, you're colder than you think, but you're in the right genre. It's not a cabal.
Just tell me.
Native American burial ground under the
No. It wasn't my It wasn't because I was smoking cigarettes and tried to show the moms how big my dick is soft. It's because of a Native American burial ground.
Let me say this right now. It's not my fault. Some guy who's not white. That's who fucking did it.
As I mentioned before on the show, well, the story is apt now because it's on the main feed of a Motley Crue episode. But in 2002, I went to the second night of Motley Crue at the Air Canada Centre, which is a 20,000 seat arena in Toronto. Halfway through the show, all the band needed a short nap because they were in their like 40s and 50s then.
That's right.
Tommy Lee goes, you guys want to see some crazy shit? I want to see some titties. I want to see some titties. And then they decide on this woman who's very pretty, but clearly there with her boyfriend. Like, couldn't have been more visibly there. Her boyfriend got tickets and was like, we'll go to this thing. And then she's like, no, not doing it. Just shaking her head. Nope. And people are booing her. And God bless this woman. She's like, not even close. Never. I'm going to put on more bras and shirts now. I'm going to fucking snowman myself with all these shirts.
She's sawing her boobs off to throw into the garbage.
She's literally,
see them.
She's signing.
Good for her.
She's signing a thing to switch genders. Like, I never want to be I've now retired from being a woman.
Tommy Lee, by the way,
this, shaking her head. No, story's not done. And then he goes, come on, I'll whip it out. And a couple people are like, what? They think because all this like 18,000 men think they're going to see a dick. And they're like, I don't want that. And then she's like, no. And then camera goes slightly to the left. And it's this older woman from when Motley Crue was in their prime who's had her tits out for months now. Just waving them around, going like, but like wild eyes, and not doing it like slow and sexually, just like, like she's trying to scare the entire arena. And everyone goes like, I don't know. I've never heard 18,000 people at the same time go like, like not you, but like scared. And then Tommy Lee was like, oh, okay. Like defeated. And he went, you guys want to see
Two.
some crazy shit? And then he played wine bottles like they were drums. And I laughed so fucking hard.
Two things.
Want to see some
Two
crazy shit? And the noise it made was like, or like, you know, when you're, I don't know, maybe you didn't have like drunk uncles, but like my drunk uncles would like give me a pencil and be like, here, play a fucking, it's an empty Molson Canadian, just hit it. And I'm like, okay, hell yeah, I'm a drummer. And they're like, you drum away, I'm gonna go smoke over here. And that's what it
we
was.
had very different vibe drunk uncles. There was no, I liked my boozy family, and there was no like time to entertain the kids. It was like time to play cards, get out of here, I have to fucking teach my brother that he's a prick. Like,
oh, that's funny. Yeah, my uncle once took me. We do not talk anymore to this side of the family. Once took me. He was like, "Yeah, I haven't seen Dylan in a while. He took me to a pool hall. He lost $100 immediately, and we left. Total time hanging out with Uncle Brian, 35 minutes.
woo!
He was like, "All right, let's go. Well, maybe we'll get some lunch afterwards." Uncle Brian could no longer afford lunch. You're going back with your mom.
I routinely, when my grandmother would go to the salon to get the most intense perm ever, I was dropped off with my grandfather at the club, which looking back was just a community center where he was gambling with his friends. And I would just watch the TV in the foyer. And during every commercial break, I had to check in with my grandfather.
Man, it is like parenting before iPads was just, I guarantee people don't talk about this with television or iPads, but the amount of straight up deaths that have been avoided just from an iPad or a television.
Oh my God.
Just
It's
like
got to be
negligent parent does something over here and then just like kid, or not, maybe not straight, not up deaths, but definitely like, I guarantee there's way less fingerless kids now than there were in the
100%.
50s.
Yeah. There are the eye patch industry. I
That's
assume
so funny.
swears at every eye patch. You motherfuckers take my food out of my baby's mouth.
Oh yeah. Steve Eyepatch just fucking watching TV, sees an advertisement for the iPad and grips his chair so hard that he rips off the fucking covering. God damn it. First TV, now this.
Yeah.
No one's going to play with firecrackers anymore? Yeah. Fucking shit.
Yeah. First this, now people wearing gloves in the winter. What are we supposed to do?
Oh, I suppose we just can't play with farm equipment alone anymore?
I'm going to just say this about Tommy Lee and the idea of I'll whip it out is what kind of world do you live in where you're like, all right, I want to see this woman's tits. She doesn't want to show me your tits. I know what to do.
Hey, would you like to go on a date? No? Here's my dick.
Yeah, exactly. It's the greatest negotiating tool. Also, like,
do you remember? Did you have that guy in your school though?
I had a few of those guys. I have those guys still in my friend group now. I have those guys that literally, I had a conversation with one of those guys around me too, where I was like, see you in hell, buddy. There is no way that this is not going to destroy you. Skated completely fine. Not a problem at all. Wild.
Oh no. Yeah. There was a guy who in our neighborhood, he just like, and this was, my school had this where it was like a guy whose family had a big farm. So he was just going to own that farm and knew he'd never needed school. So he would go through the drive-through. He had a big penis. He would go through drive-throughs and just take his dick out and then drew a swastika on his balls. And that was his joke. And he owns a farm. He owns a farm. Because he knew it's like, no matter how many... No matter how many people I show, I mean, you could go to jail. I mean, now you would, but not then. Now it was just like, oh, you saw a dick? What fucking mark it down to your calendar, woman? First of all, you're a whore now. If you saw a dick, you should be wearing big sunglasses at all times in case a man shows you his penis because you're in the wrong.
This is a memory that just pops in my head that I just remembered from house party when we were 17, which is a guy went into the kitchen, got a knife, walked up to another guy and said, Jeremy, stop taking your dick out around my friends. And Jeremy had not taken his dick out at that party, but I feel like someone had a lot of booze for the first time and was really getting something from the past out. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's good. Jeremy. Well, I mean, at least he got a knife to show everyone he's very serious.
The thing. There's a bunch of times. I remember there was a knife and alcohol story. Speaking of Motley Crue, I remember one time listening to Girls in the basement of a house party. And then there was novelty swords on the wall. And then someone grabbed one of the swords, tried to stab another guy because he had a quote unquote high squeaky voice, Jesus like a bitch.
Christ. But also like, that's fine.
Listen, I went to way too many house parties that were all dudes, and that is a bunch of
That
just
is so fun. That was my favorite thing is
oh fuck.
all dude parties where one guy brought his girlfriend and you would I
You
remember
fool.
tracking it and being like you wouldn't notice it, but there was just a circle around the one girl and I would just like talk away from my friends to be like, when does the circle fully form? And it would be like a minute before the girl was
Of
circled. And it
course.
was just guys talking to each other, not even looking. I'm like, it's like a natural ape thing where they're like, circle the woman.
Yeah. Protect her so that we show her our hard penises.
Oh, so we Tommy Lear. John, what do you think of Motley Crue? Do you think that they're coming back? Do you think that
No, they're just going to be a nostalgia band that will play smaller and smaller venues until
I
they
didn't think they
eventually
were coming
die.
back? They're like 70 years old.
Yeah, where are they coming back to? They're fucking done. I mean, I followed Nikki Sixx's Instagram account in the pandemic, and that was pretty fucking wild because let me tell you, that guy, so much money. It was so fucking wild. Like he was literally like, this pandemic's getting nuts, and then it's his baby on a private jet, and then his baby in Montana in a pool, and he's like, we live here now. Fucking nuts.
This fucking pandemic's crazy. Things are going nuts. I'm down to 3 pools.
Yeah. All right. Well, I only know one way to solve this. I'll just buy more property and live there. Okay, see you now. Fuck you.
Yeah, but in a weird way, Motley Crue is kind of sad because this kind of wealthy musician is probably a thing of the past because it's no longer like they made residuals off of these tracks for 800,000 years, and that's no longer possible anymore. Thank you so much for listening.
I do not feel bad for Motley Crue because I think that they are one of the few bands that has retranslated into even more people buying tickets to their shows. So yeah, they're going to have to go out and earn it, but they're going to be in big pools, big penises, big houses, big fridges. You know what I mean?
Oh,
They're
I don't
free.
mean that I don't feel bad for Motley Crue. I feel bad for other bands like Motley Crue.
Oh yeah, I 100% do feel bad. I feel bad for bands like Winger, Warrant.
No, I just mean like bands now.
Interpol.
Yeah, I feel bad for Interpol.
Do you feel bad for the yeahs?
No. No. You could use that.
Holy shit, Dylan. All right. I have to piss so badly because I'm trying to rehydrate. Let me say this about drinking lots of water.
No.
I don't want to piss this many times in a day. 7 pisses? That's too many. That's too many wheeze.
John, do you know who Doja Cat is?
It's me.
Okay, good. We're going to talk about Doja Cat. I'm going to do a
Sure.
one-way traffic episode about Doja Cat next week. It'll be really fun.
All right. What does that mean? You're going to tell me about Doja Cat?
Yeah, I'll just tell you about
All right,
Doja
tell me
Cat.
about Doja Cat, baby. All right, we'll talk
Hell
about
yeah,
fucking
well,
Doja Cat.
goodbye.
We were gonna talk about fuck it. Hope you're all fucking. Let's all finish this episode the way we all intended. Masturbating in our individual homes. Stood up or sat down. You decide. No laying down.
This is good because you with this Doja Cat episode ensures that 2 suburban white Canadian men have to talk about race. Truly what podcasting was built on. Thank you guys so much.
I'm gonna put a flag up behind me.
Put the flag upside down.
That way you know which side. Whoa, Steve Austin's here.